G'day there VCers! We're looking at stress in this video. In particular, typical characteristics of the stress response. Think about a time in your life when you've been particularly stressed. Perhaps you were just about to start an exam, or had a big grand final coming up, or simply felt overwhelmed at the fact that you were watching Friends, when instead you should have been doing about 50,000 other things. Regardless, it's likely that you experienced some characteristics of the stress response, even if you didn't notice them at the time. When we perceive a threat, or when we are stressed, our body prepares itself, both physically and psychologically. As such, there are typical things that happen to our body in such a time. Imagine if you had to get up in 10 minutes' time and make a speech on live international television to an audience of millions and millions of people. What would happen? Typical features include increased heart rate, increased perspiration, increased respiration, inhibited digestion, loosening of the bladder, dilation of the pupils, dry mouth, and release of adrenaline. There are also psychological factors, such as anxiety, perceptual distortions, and disrupted cognitive processes. These responses tend to come about as a result of the fight or flight response, which is part of the sympathetic nervous system. The fight or flight response activates when an organism perceives itself to be in threat, making sure that they are either ready to fight against that threat or to get away from it. Hence, fight or flight. This question from the 2012 VCAR exam asks specifically about the fight or flight response. Our options are that the fight or flight response is a long-term physiological response to stress, a short-term physiological response to stress, a response activated by the parasympathetic nervous system, or an environmental factor that increases a person's level of stress. Let's work backwards. Option D is incorrect because the fight or flight response is a physiological response rather than an environmental factor. Option C is also wrong. The fight or flight response is activated by the sympathetic nervous system, not the parasympathetic nervous system. So our decision comes down to whether the fight or flight response is long-term or short-term. The response is activated due to a perceived immediate threat and only lasts as long as that threat remains present. So the correct response is option B. Keep working hard and have a psychedelic day.